Almost immediately following what was arguably Kentucky's biggest win of the regular season, the Wildcats picked up what I think is my favorite commitment of next year's class.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe. On today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be discussing the commitment of five-star guard Karter Knox, legacy player to the Kentucky Wildcats. Going to discuss the 2024 class as a whole. It looks great, and the SEC tournament bracket has been officially released. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to discuss that today as well. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. I want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the show. And if you are listening on podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you subbed there as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Five-star shooting guard, small forward Karter Knox has committed to the Kentucky Wildcats. Yesterday, it was announced that he would be announcing where he was going to college, I believe at halftime during a game with OTE. And there were several people on social media that were saying, like high-profile people that would be in the know, not really feeling Kentucky here. The Wildcats then went and beat the Tennessee Volunteers, and about 30 minutes after that game ended, Karter Knox announced that he would be committing to the Kentucky Wildcats. Top 20 prospect overall, according to the 24/7 Sports player rating system. According to the composite rankings, he is number 19 in the country. Five-star, number 6 small forward in the nation, and the number 2 player out of the state of Georgia. 6'5", 225 pounds, playing out of OTE. Committed to Kentucky over Louisville, Arizona State, Arkansas, Auburn, among other big-time schools. I believe he also was considering just staying with OTE and then going to the NBA draft following that. So we talked about this kid way back, and I believe September, and I've got a clip here for you just to kind of start things off as we talk about what is Karter Knox about. I think that this kid could be my favorite player of next year's class, just what I've seen in his highlight tape, and I talked a lot about it a few months ago. So here is that clip from just a few months ago.
And then what do you see out of his offensive game here? I think that's what we also need to highlight. The fact that Karter Knox is one of the better shooters that I've seen coming out of high school, going to watch their highlights and going to watch their jump shot. I like his jump shot. I think it's consistent. I like the form. I like the fact that he can utilize not just the outside shot, but also can get into the mid-range. I think you see that a lot in his film, where he's able to do a lot of different things on the offensive end of the floor when it comes to creating his shot and then finding space. I also think that he works really well in catch-and-shoot situations. You get to see some of that during his highlight tape. I think I've impressed overall with his offensive game. It's the shooting. That's what you like about Karter Knox, the shooting. The guy can knock it down from a variety of areas. The second thing that you like about Karter Knox on not only the offensive end, but also the defensive end of the floor is at 6'5", again, with maybe a bit of a bulkier frame, more physical frame. The kid has bounce. I mean, the kid can go up and get it, whether it be catching lobs, whether it be throwing down very aggressive dunks in transition. Whenever it comes to blocking shots, you get to see a lot of aggression from him when it comes to flying high and getting things done there on both ends of the floor again. So you really like the athleticism, explosive athlete, phenomenal shooter. He looks like an NBA guard. So like I said, they're really, really good shooter, I think, coming out of this year's class. And that's something that I think is going to be extremely valuable to the Wildcats next season. Of course, we can talk about different transfer portal pieces and kind of how maybe those guys will fit in if those guys are really good shooters. But as far as next year's class goes, I think Knox may be just the best overall scorer. I understand that Boogie Fland is really, really good, and we'll get to him in just a little bit.
But as far as what Knox likes to do goes, he is a 3-level scorer, somebody that has, I think, a really solid frame for his position, really long arms. He is aggressive. Like I said, he is a high-flying athlete. Overall, just a really, really nice talent at the 2 or the 3. I think he is going to slot in very, very nicely in this year's class, and I think that alongside some transfer portal pieces, I'm really starting to buy into what next year's team looks like, because I understand that a lot of people are going to next year begin to compare some different players and performances and things like that to what happened this season, because what Kentucky got this season was an embarrassment of riches. Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham, Antonio Reeves, 3 different NBA guards that can light it up. And I think statistically, we need to go ahead and start preparing ourselves for a step back next season. Now, I don't know how significant of a step back it's going to be, but Kentucky's offense is certainly not going to be on the level that it was this year. It's very, very difficult to replicate, and I think that this group of players is just simply really special. But guys like Karter Knox coming in, I think, is going to provide a wide variety of different ways to score the basketball for his team. He's going to be one of the lead players on next year's squad, at least I would expect, and he's going to be joined by a number of really young, talented players. So I kind of want to dive into that now. What does Kentucky basketball's class look like next season alongside Karter Knox? Well, I'll just go ahead and tell you. I think it looks pretty darn good. I want to discuss all of the different players that Kentucky's bringing in and talk about how they're going to round out, at least how I would expect them to round out right now. In just a moment, before I do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. They offer amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing television that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend or baseball or the college basketball tournament, which is coming up in just a week, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, from March Madness to the NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. And if you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you absolutely should. It's amazing. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. That is Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know, the SEC tournament is coming up here in just a few days. Let's say you're trying to get over to Nashville, as will be a lot of other members of Big Blue Nation, and you want to buy some last-minute tickets to go check out the Wildcats taking on whatever team they will in that double bye round. You are going to want to head to one place to get your tickets, and that is Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you want to buy tickets to your next big event, and Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy all kinds of tickets, not just for sports, but for music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. They take the guesswork out of buying tickets, and their Game Time guarantee means you will always get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You need to go to Game Time and take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, continuing along here on the Monday edition of Locked On Kentucky, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you checking out the show today. If you have not subscribed wherever you are tuned in, whether that be on podcast or on YouTube, would greatly appreciate it if you went and did that. I'm going to say this now, and then I'm going to reiterate it earlier on in my next episode that I do. I am going to start up another ESPN bracket challenge for you guys to join. I believe we had like 40 or 50 people join the bracket challenge last year. I'm going to be dropping links in the comments, links in the description on social media. If you want to join up, I would absolutely love for you to do so, and we'll shout out whoever wins the bracket. If it's me, then we'll just give myself a pat on the back. I'm not going to win it. But I really, really loved doing that with you guys last year, just going through and doing a bracket challenge with you guys, and it's that time of year. So, ladies and gentlemen, 1 week away from Selection Sunday at the time of this recording. Would love for you guys to get in on the bracket challenge. Links will be in the description if you want to check that out. And if you are on podcast or on YouTube, please go join up. It's free. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's see, out of the Locked On Kentucky fan base, who has the most knowledge about the tournament. Honestly, you know what? To be honest with you, it doesn't really have much to do with knowledge. It's a little bit of luck. Who's the luckiest amongst the Locked On fan base? Okay, so we talked about Karter Knox, talked about how much I love him. I think that he is going to be a bucket next year for the Kentucky Wildcats, and he is surrounding himself. He's surrounding himself with a number of really, really good players. Obviously, Coach Cal this season brought in a ton of five-star talent at the guard position. And next year, not only does Kentucky have talent at the guard position, but they've also got a couple of really interesting front court pieces as well. So as it stands right now with Kentucky basketball, they rank number 2 in the nation. And with their 2024 recruiting class, the number 1 player in this 2024 class is Jayden Quaintance, the center, 6'9", 230 pounds. Originally, I felt like we felt like he was going to commit to Missouri. 5-star, ended up committing to Kentucky. Number 8 overall prospect nationally. Number 2 at his position at that center spot. Just a bulky dude down low. And according to 24/7, and you can see this in the highlight tapes as well, naturally talented, just naturally gifted. And he has an insane wingspan, which I think really helps him down there alongside his strong frame, grabbing rebounds, being aggressive around the rim. Number 2 prospect in this class is Boogie Fland, who is kind of a combo guard, if I remember correctly. I know that a lot of places list him at point guard, but I think that he is going to be, he's going to be combo working with the Wildcats. He shot 30% from 3 during his EYBL circuit that he was in, I believe, earlier last year. And something that 24/7 alongside a couple of different other places noted is that he is a much better three-point shooter than what those numbers indicate, because he has sometimes some really awkward shot selection, and that leads to some less efficient shooting numbers, but he is a really good shot maker. And I think that he's probably going to be playing close to that 2-1 spot. Smaller guard, by the way, at 6'2", 170. The other center in Kentucky's class that I'm really excited about, Somto Cyril, who is just a dude. He is just a tank. 6'10", 240. And I think you guys saw that highlight on Twitter just a couple of days ago where he just absolutely threw down a monstrous dunk for OTE. He is balling out for them right now. He going insane. Top 45 prospect nationally, number 10 center, and then the 5th best player in the state of Georgia. Georgia's got a lot of talent, man. It's insane. How little talent the Bulldogs and the Yellow Jackets pull out of that state, considering they are right there in the hotbed of what is one of the best basketball states in the nation. Travis Perry, here, 6'2", 170-pound point guard, smaller, out of Kentucky. Really, really smart player. And we talked about this whenever Perry committed. Athletically, not the most insane prospect. He's a good shooter. He's smart, he makes good decisions, and he's kind of similar in ways to Shepherd with less bounce, where he will just simply consistently make the right play. I'm curious to see what Perry does. I would assume he comes off the bench in favor of Fland or a transfer, or Billy Richmond, who is a 6'5", 200-pound shooting guard, who could, I guess, play at the 2 or the 3 if Kentucky wants to. He's developing guard skills. We've seen this. I like Richmond's game. Another explosive player, top 25 prospect nationally, 7th best at his position at the shooting guard spot. And then obviously, like we mentioned, Karter Knox. So Kentucky's got 3 different players here that I think could rotate in at shooting guard: Knox, Richmond, Fland. It's shaping up right now to be a transfer portal cycle for Kentucky where they look heavily for an experienced point guard, like a really good PG1. And I'm not sure who that would be, but as far as scoring goes, Richmond, Knox, Fland, I think are going to be guys that kind of help you next season alongside some guys that are coming back. But athletically, I think Kentucky is kind of set with some of these wings that can just kind of run and dunk, and obviously Knox is a really good shooter. And you've got 2 guys down low that are going to be really good. If Thiero comes back, he'll probably be your starting 4. That's just my guess if Kentucky wants to go that route. But transfer portal, I think your first thing you're looking for is a really efficient point guard. Doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that shoots the lights out. Obviously, that would be preferred. But somebody that can just handle the rock, not turn it over, and set up some of these really talented athletic guys to make plays. That's right now what I'm looking at. That would be the biggest thing that I'm looking at here. So let me know what you think about Kentucky's recruiting class in the comments below. One of the best in the nation. I'm starting to get excited about next season if we can piece together some portal pieces alongside these guys. Get some veteran presences in here. Somebody... not like Antonio Reeves, obviously not somebody that's like the most insane scorer, but somebody at that guard spot that can be a veteran presence and really lead and help and contribute. I'm really looking forward to next season. But right now, we've got an SEC tournament to talk about because the bracket has been set. Going to be super fun in Nashville this weekend. Before we dive into the SEC tournament bracket, and we'll predict it on tomorrow's episode, we're just going to kind of take a look at it here. Before I get into all of that, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to check out professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to take a look at LinkedIn Jobs, because they have the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It is not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. They give you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else, and they do all of it while making the process super easy and intuitive. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours over on LinkedIn. They are constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even faster and quicker. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, continuing along here on the Monday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you checking out the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an SEC tournament bracket set. And instead of just going over here, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm actually going to pull up the bracket now so you guys can kind of check this out and see what's going on. If you're following on podcast, just follow along with me here. Kentucky, the Kentucky Wildcats, end up as the number 2 seed in the SEC tournament. So y'all know what this means, right? We said it in the recap episode for the Tennessee game. Kentucky was an LSU buzzer beater away from winning the SEC championship. Just one bucket. You were 2 points away, which is insane to think about considering the turmoil so far this year. Tennessee's your 1 seed, outright regular season champions. Kentucky's your 2 seed. Alabama is your 3 seed. And then Auburn, after beating Georgia, gets the 4 seed spot. Your 5 seed, South Carolina, who actually slides down because they lost to Auburn and Alabama, which is kind of funny. Feels bad for South Carolina, though. Your 5 seed is South Carolina. Your 6 seed are the Florida Gators. Your 7 is Texas A&M. Your 8 is LSU. Your 9 is Mississippi State. 10th seed is Ole Miss. 11th seed is Georgia. 12th seed is Arkansas. 13th is Vanderbilt. And 14th are the Missouri Tigers. So Kentucky, as a 2 seed, for their opening round or opening game in the quarterfinals, they will face number 7 Texas A&M or number 10 Ole Miss. If they win that game in the semifinals, they will play either 3 seed Alabama, 6 seed Florida, 11 seed Georgia, or 14 seed Missouri. And if they win that game, they would be entering the championship against Tennessee, Auburn, South Carolina, LSU, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, or Arkansas. This is not the worst draw in the world. Texas A&M could definitely cause problems for Kentucky. They could definitely cause problems. But if we're just looking on paper at these two teams, my guess is that Kentucky should win that game. They should win that game. I think Kentucky's the better team. I think that most metrics would agree with that. Texas A&M finished the year 18-13, 9-9 in SEC play. They actually are favored to beat Ole Miss right now. They just blew out the Rebels on the road at the end of the season. Who's to say Texas A&M doesn't dominate again against Ole Miss? A&M could cause problems, but if Ole Miss wins, I'd feel a little bit better about that matchup against the Rebels in the quarterfinals. Get that game at 6 o'clock on Friday. And then on Saturday, if you win that game, you'd probably be playing Alabama. If Florida doesn't beat them, probably. That's the most likely scenario. And Alabama at a neutral site also scares me a little bit. But we all remember what we just saw in Rupp Arena. We just saw complete annihilation of Bama's defense. And Alabama's defense to end the season has been pretty bad. Take a look at their just take a look at their entire month of February through March. These are the points that they gave up. 99, 92, 75, 93, 117, 88, 81, 105, 88. They have a really, really good offense, but that defense is porous. That defense is bad. People want to make fun of Kentucky's defense. That defense is awful. So I think Kentucky, from a matchup standpoint, can go blow for blow with Alabama. And you're looking at heading to the championship game against Tennessee, Auburn, South Carolina, most likely. And that's going to be a really difficult matchup. Any game you get here is going to be tough, man. But I like the fact that we don't have to play a Florida or an Auburn out of the gate. Or somebody like a Mississippi State. I think that Kentucky getting possibly Ole Miss or Texas A&M is one of the better draws. And I'm not saying these teams are bad. These are good teams, respective teams. Teams that are, I think, going to be very competitive and could beat Kentucky absolutely. But as far as the preferences I have go for these different games, I'm not mad at A&M or Ole Miss. So we'll monitor this starting Wednesday. We'll be going over what happens in the SEC tournament, and then we'll look on Thursday, and then we will have a matchup on Friday, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very interesting tournament. Let me know what you think about Kentucky's draw in the comments below. Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? How far do you think Kentucky's going to make it? You can leave all of that in the comments below. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless.